You should just be focusing on your content. And when you do that and you let go of all the noise and all the tips and all the hacks and all the advice, and you just focus on certain activities, honestly, the amount of brain space you get and the lack of like overwhelm, it just makes everything so much better.
Hey, my feel good friends. Today's guest is super fun, and I honestly had a super fun conversation with her because she is a social media manager from England, and yet she has the exact same message as me. She's trying to help people in a very, very similar way. And so you can imagine how geeky our conversation has gotten. But I know you'll enjoy this. Cassie is sharing so many actionable tips for how to use social media to market your business in a way that's going to be less stressful for you. We talk about so many different things. We talk about mindset shifts that you need to make in order to use social media work for your business in a way that's also going to not take over your life. All those things. I can't wait to share this conversation with you. Let's dive right in. Hey, friend, and welcome to the Feel Good Social Podcast. I'm your host, Kinsey, and I'm here to help you market your business in a genuine way that works without wasting your precious time. On this show, we chat about social media strategy and mindset tips with a focus on, you guessed it, feeling good. So sit back, relax, and enjoy some genuine conversation for the good of your biz. Are you ready to easily create social media content that feels on brand and looks beautiful without breaking the bank or wasting your precious time? Our new Brand Vibe bundles are here, my friend. These digital bundles will give you everything you need to easily show up on social media with cohesive content that feels like your brand. You simply have to choose the bundle that best fits your brand's vibe, and you'll be on your way to posting with ease. Check them out at feelgoodsocial.com/brandvibebundles. Each of our differently branded bundles includes 80 plus customizable Canva social media templates, 6 Lightroom presets for easy one-click photo editing, 30 in-depth social post prompts, plus a guide to your brand vibe with a description of your vibe's personality, power words, and additional suggested color palettes, font pairings, and graphic elements. I know these bundles are exactly what you've been looking for to finally show up consistently and cohesively on Instagram for your brand without breaking the bank or wasting your precious time. Just head to feelgoodsocial.com/brandvibebundles and you'll find all the information there. Hi, Cassie. Thank you so much for joining us, lady. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. Well, I did already introduce you a little bit in the intro, but I'd love to hear from you. Who are you? What do you do? And who do you serve?
Hi, I'm Cassie. I'm a social media strategist, and I help businesses simplify their social media with a strategy that centers around their business goals and their lifestyle.
Yes. Yeah. And I love your take to social media as well. I'm right there with you, where it's how can we make this effective, but also easy on you and make it work with your lifestyle and all those things. I'd love to know, how did you kind of get started in this business and get started with social media management?
So I felt that I was working with a lot of clients and I was going through the motions of doing what every other tip tells you to do. And I found all my clients were just so overwhelmed, and a few of them were starting to fall out of love with social media. And I was thinking, oh God, my job is not fun anymore because I am going into work and I'm telling them, you need to be visible. You need to be doing these stories. You need to be doing all this. And it was just stressing them out. And I was thinking, oh my God, that's my job. I am stressing people out for a living. This is not what I want to do. And at the same time, I was having the same feeling with my own business. So having been in this industry for over 6 years, I was working in social media and I've seen the potential. We all know how great it can be, but I was stressing with the fact that there was no off switch. So one day I got on Instagram stories and I found myself apologizing for not being on for a day. And I thought, what am I doing? Like, who cares if I didn't go on for a day? Like, understand the power of visibility, but I thought, how have we gone so far where I'm seeing it in others and myself apologizing for not showing up for a day? So I thought, okay, something's got to change here for myself and for my clients. We're both just not happy with this. We're falling out of love with social media, and it's my living, so I just couldn't let that happen. So I decided to take a step back, and I looked at, what does social media success mean to me? I've always been someone who's interested in a really good, healthy work-life balance, but I'd never really applied that to my social media. And given it was like, obviously it's such a big part of my business and my client's business, I was like, there must be a better way for business owners. And I'd seen, we hear about social media detoxes and all these kind of things. And I was like, yeah, but that's great. But what is a weekend really off social media? What is that? So I started by looking at, what does social media success look like to me? And the way it came about was I was having a conversation with a client, and she really wanted to start a Facebook group. And I was like, okay, right, we can do that. And then I decided, well, actually, let me look at what that would actually cost to do that. And we saw that it would take an average between 3 or 4 extra hours a week for her to nurture this Facebook group and build that community, because we don't want an empty Facebook group. We want one that everyone's having great discussions. So to build it up from the ground, it takes a lot of work. And she just realized there and then that, no, those 4 extra hours a week is not something I'm willing to do. And I was like, that's really interesting, because now we're starting to see that there's limitations, there's boundaries that we have. And I was really interested in pursuing that with the type of people that wanted to have those boundaries, but felt that there was no one that they could turn to, because all the advice out there for business owners is be visible, go on these kind of platforms, show up on stories daily. And they were all getting exhausted. So I had seen that, I can work with these people. And if I'm feeling it and they're feeling it, there's more people that feel it as well. So I started looking around creating social media strategies for business owners that's worked around their time, their values, their boundaries, their resources as well. And once I did that for myself and my clients, like everything shifted. All of a sudden, like our relationship with social media improved. My clients actually were starting enjoying it again and wanted to show up, which obviously is just going to help their business even more, because they're showing up actually happy before they weren't. So I just found that my clients felt that they were finally understood, and they almost saw me and every other social media manager or strategist out there as like, oh God, if I hire this person, they're going to tell me to do X, Y, Z. And it's just so exhausting. So that all of a sudden they felt understood and less overwhelmed straight away. So yeah, that's kind of where I came from, the whole journey from myself and my clients, and trying to find a way to do it a bit better.
Oh man, so many good, so many great like little knowledge nuggets in there. And also like, yeah, I totally relate to your journey, where it's like, I feel a lot of times I feel like the internet is super, super loud, right? And just like there's so many people and they're yelling about what we should do. You should need to do this, you need to do that, and all that stuff. And it like adds so much to our anxiety, and it's so unnecessary. Like I fully believe in what you're saying about finding out like what does social media success mean for you, and just really focusing on that and finding a plan that works with your lifestyle. Because exactly, if you create a plan that like you just cannot keep up with, then that's not going to work. You're going to fail anyway. Or if you create a plan that's going to stress you out, and I fully believe in that too, like showing up with joy, showing up from a place of like excitement and enthusiasm and having fun with it is one of the best ways to show up. And so exactly, if you've created a social media strategy that like doesn't work with any of those things, it's not gonna work.
No, it's not sustainable, is it, at all, for them and for you who's trying to deliver that. And I feel like for people like you and I, like I think from the clients that I've spoke to, it's really refreshing for them to work with someone who gets that, because we are working with people, and instead it's it's our job to tell them essentially to be on social media and do it in an effective way to reach their goals. But at least we've now got that understanding and empathy for them and go, do you know what? We're not going to push you to do all these things. Because I think the only other option is to quit social media altogether. And as a small business owner, that is just a luxury we just don't have in today's world. Mm-hmm. So I was seeing this a lot with business owners. If you're an individual, fine, you can log off whenever. But when you've got a business to run, you don't have that luxury. So to have people work with you who will be able to do it in a sustainable way, I think it's really fulfilling on my part.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Do you offer coaching or management, or how do you?
So I used to do management, and I did that for a few years. But now I do coaching and consulting.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I love it. Yeah, for sure. I know it's so funny. I still feel like social media management is such kind of a new industry. But then also like, especially it's blown up like with COVID year and all that stuff, so like now everyone and their mom wants to be a social media manager, it feels like, but it's still kind of new. And it's so interesting to see how different people structure the different services that they offer and all that stuff. But I offer coaching too. And I love it because exactly, it's like figuring out, what works for your client. And so all of my different coaching clients are kind of at different levels of their business, and as I've been working with them, we've slowly been building on their strategy, getting comfortable with the posting. So then we add an IG live maybe, or something like that. And it's really fun to work with people that way. And especially with social media, I don't know if you run into this, but it really is such a head game for so many people, myself included, and all of my clients. And so that's where I think like coaching is really awesome when it comes to marketing and social media, because you can like help people overcome those hurdles and you can really work with them on that one-on-one level. Like, what is stopping you right now? And then also, work with people in that area where it's like, okay, are you not doing the work because you have taken too much on your plate, because it's stressing you out, whatever? Or do you need a little kick in the butt to like go on IG live? Because I know you can do it, but like, what's stopping you? Do you run into that with your clients?
Oh, for sure. I always do this thing with them where I'm asking them, is it coming like for stories, for example, like I have this thing where we go over their boundaries and it's like, what do you want to do? And a lot of them will say, I don't want to be the face of my brand. And I always go, is that a genuine hard no? Or is that just because you're a bit nervous or a bit scared? Because that's okay. We can work on that. And being in coaching, you're able to do that. I found with management, which by the way, is just a massively like underrated job. It's so full on and you do so much. And I just think it's just not appreciated for what it is. But I found that a lot of my clients they weren't overcoming any of these things because they were passing it all on to someone else. And in the age where I think personal branding is so, so important, I really do see the value of you actually taking the lead here with your own socials and coming across as you really, as opposed to, maybe getting someone else to do it.
Yeah. Yes. I love that you brought this up. And yeah, I feel like we're very much aligned and I was just like on opposite sides of the world. Because where are you living right now?
I'm in England right now, in the north of England.
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay. I know. Yeah, exactly. It's like, I fully believe that too, that like the more you can bring yourself into your brand, no matter the brand, like all brands are kind of personal brands at this point, right? And so it's like bringing yourself and being the face of your business, I kind of think is necessary, especially when you're just starting out. Like, I think there's an argument for, I think that every brand should like have a face behind it and you should like add that personality to it and stuff like that. But like the best way to grow your business when you're just starting out is like making it personal, driving those deeper connections through that like relatability and the personal stories and all those things. And I have all my clients, like not all of my clients, but a lot of my clients have come to me and been like, I don't want to show my face. Like, it's about my business. And I was the same way too, but the thing is like, you're not Pepsi, like you're not Nike. Like if you want to grow, like I'm telling you, this is the best way to grow right now. And plus like people love it. Like people want that personal connection, especially I feel like 2020 just drove that home. Did you find that too?
Oh, for sure, for sure. People were craving it. Oh, here in the UK, we're still in lockdown, so we're still craving it. But yeah, I think you're as well. If you do it yourself, you become so much more invested. I was finding with social media management clients that because they weren't there day to day and all they were getting from me was a schedule of when they should maybe make this certain video for stories or something, they weren't as invested in it. And I realized that once I was able to bring them in, because when I was transitioning to coaching, I was able to like trial these strategies that I had with my current clients to see if that was something that would work for them. And when I was bringing them more on board, you saw them, they got more invested, and that meant they got more excited about it and they had more ideas, and they know their brand, they built their brand. So having them more invested and more excited about it was just such like a transformation for their business.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I just like everything you're saying, I'm vibing with so hard. And it's 9 a.m. for me, you guys. It's probably 4:30 for you right now, right? Yeah. One of my coaching clients listening. But I know, yeah. I'm like over here like, oh, just gobbling up what you're saying, girl, because I fully believe in that. And I actually struggled with that when I first like started my business. I started out trying to create kind of like this digital agency, this social media management agency. And it just didn't feel right for me. It didn't sit right in my soul, because the people who I'm helping are those like down to earth entrepreneurs who are bootstrapping, like, you know, working so hard, hustling when they need to hustle, which is why a lot of my messaging is also like, be gentle with yourself, slow down a little. Yeah. But exactly. It was like working with people in that monthly management capacity when it feels like disconnected. And I feel like I fully believe that like in driving genuine connection, creating real relationships for your brand on social media. And so it felt kind of weird, you know, in my gut. And so that's why I transitioned into kind of coaching more. But then also I have been taking on monthly management clients again, but I'm focusing very much so on like personal stories and like really deeply getting to know their brand and their why and all that stuff, so that I can kind of show up for them more in that like genuine way. And it feels better than just exactly that disconnection that management sometimes brings, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I did that when I was weaving them into it. And I thought it can still work, especially if you do have that relationship with them where you are trying to gel it as much as possible.
Yeah, for sure, lady. Okay, let's like detour just a little bit.
Okay.
I'd love to know how you got into like social media in general. You know what I mean? Like, how did you get started? 'Cause it kind of fell in my lap personally.
Oh my God. I would love to hear your story, because mine fell completely in my lap as well. I was actually traveling and I had created a little blog, and I think this was like 2000 and God, like about 7 years ago now. And it was the height of, you know, you're going to be a travel blogger. That was what everyone was doing. So I was like, I'm going to be a travel blogger. My background's in charity work. So I was working for charities, but I thought, no, I'm going to go traveling for a bit. And I was starting this blog. And then my partner and I got a job in China. And we were going to teach English for a bit, just to kind of break it up a bit from the traveling. And I was working with this company and I realized that they didn't have any social media profiles and they didn't really have like a very good website. And I knew how to create basic ones, nothing too fancy. But I thought, I see an opportunity here. Maybe they'll let me do their social media. So I am quite a thorough person. So I created this like 7-page document with a job description, a proposal of what it'd bring to the company, why I was the best person. And I pitched it to the VP there. And he brought me in and he was like, okay, I like your ideas. Yeah, let's go for it. So I got my first full-time role as a social media manager for this company. And it was such a blessing because it allowed me to learn so much, because I could never have done it straight off the bat with clients, because I probably would have lost so many clients because I was still learning. They allowed me to just give me the space and time to trial things, and, without worrying about the fact that this is a client that could, end my contract at any time. They were really great. They put me on loads of training courses and in digital marketing as well as social media marketing. And it was such an invaluable learning experience. And then when we were leaving China, my partner and I decided, well, do you know what? I think I could actually pitch that I could do this remotely in the UK. And I did. And they were like, yeah, go for it. So I was like, brilliant. So then I was able to become freelance while still not stressing about, do I have enough money to survive here? Because I still had that regular income coming through. And that was just a godsend and able to build the business that I've got now.
Oh, lady, like what? We're so twinsies right now. Seriously, because like I've traveled through China with my boyfriend. I don't know if you knew that, but
No way.
I didn't teach English in China, but I taught English then when we were stopped in Chiang Mai for 2 months. And yeah.
Wow.
And
I did not know that.
Yeah, no, we were like, we're gonna create a climbing blog and climb our way through Asia and then, become climbing influencers and not have to pay for our travels ever. Like that was, the dream. We're like,
yes.
like bright and shiny eyed. And so we start this blog and it was good. And like, I did it for, a month, 2 months. And then I was like, this is taking up way too much of my time. This is like distracting me. I cannot continue. But that is kind of how like I got into that world of like social media marketing is a thing. Like what is all that?
Well, it was so new.
Yeah.
It was so new. So all of a sudden we're like, well, we kind of have the experience, like blogging, influencer stuff. Like that was so new. And that was like the same sphere. So, that's hilarious that we were the
I know, and like China too. Like
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but like China's one of my favorite places that I visited just because it was kind of like hard and old school travel, like going somewhere that like no one knows English, like none of the, like it's very kind of rare. You have to be in a tourist town to like find a menu in English and all that stuff. And the culture is just so different. I mean, this, it's like, just so different that you're like taken off guard and stuff. But I really enjoyed it for that reason. What year were you going to China?
We were there. So we've been back in the UK for 2 years now. So we came back 2 years ago. And we actually lived there for 3 years. So it was supposed to just be a small stopover. And then we ended up staying because my husband found out how much he just loved teaching and therefore quit his career in engineering that he was doing. And then now he's a teacher, but he had that experience in China. So we ended up staying there for 3 years. And it is a fascinating place, totally bonkers, totally different to anything that I've ever experienced before. And I've traveled quite a lot, but that was, quite extreme.
Oh, yeah, I know. It was just kind of, it was just so, so different. And I felt like if I could have been traveling back in like the 80s kind of thing, that's what it would have been more so like, because like no Google, no Facebook, no Instagram.
Yes.
It was like, okay, we were printing out all of our directions to places and like pointing to them to the taxi drivers.
I love it.
Anyway, okay. I'm so glad we went on that detour, but yes, maybe we should bring it back into social media a little bit. So, what are some of your favorite tips for like helping business owners who feel stressed out about social media? They know they need to show up there, but like everyone's telling them to do all the things. What do you tell your clients when that happens?
So everything that I do is all about simplifying everything. So I always start with what I just said was, redefine your definition of social media success. Ask yourself, what are you trying to achieve in your business with social media? What are the goals you want to achieve? Are they realistic? Like, are you actually acknowledging what it would cost to achieve those goals? Because if you Google social media goals, one of them will be like engagement, website traffic, leads, you know what the goals are, and it's so easy to just pick one of them and think this is what I want to aim for. But actually, what is that going to take to actually achieve that? So I think once you start looking at your goals and acknowledging what that would cost to get there, that's when you can start defining your priorities. So you've got your goals, then you look at your priorities and ask, what are your non-negotiables in your life? Like, how do you want your business to complement your lifestyle? Like, you may not want to be on your phone in the evenings, or instead you want to like be present for yourself or your family. But these non-negotiables help you understand what goals are realistic and what are not for your unique circumstances and priorities. So I think once you explore that a bit more, you're able to, understand how much time and energy I have or I'm willing to give to certain aspects of my social media. And then you can end up defining goals that are just realistic and are enjoyable, because we don't have all this time that, if you actually look at all the things you're technically meant to do for social media, it's physically not possible for the busy lives that we live. So I would look at defining one of the non-negotiable priorities in your life, and then looking at your goals and matching them and thinking, are they realistic? And that is the crucial first step, in my opinion, that I would advise people to do. Another thing I work with my clients on now, of course, I work with clients who they do want to scale back the amount of time they spend on their phone, for example. So for these type of people, I would always suggest switching your marketing strategy from an outbound strategy. So for example, one, when you spend hours of your time like finding people under certain hashtags to then comment on and kind of nurture that relationship, switch that to an inbound marketing strategy. So where you are just focusing on your content, and your content then attracts the right people for you. Now, in an ideal world, we'd all be engaging with so many people around the world, but we don't have the time. So focus on your content and let them come to you, as opposed to you trying to, go on these hashtags and then comment on people. I just don't think that's the best way to spend our time these days.
Yes.
And then,
yes.
then another one I would have is, so I like to simplify your marketing funnel. So I get my clients to think of 3 questions that once they answer these, they will have certain activities that they do in social media that will generate the leads that will move people down their marketing funnel. So the first one is, what are you actively doing to get your brand in front of new audiences? What are the things, like, for example, now I'm on this podcast. That for me is what I'm doing to get myself in front of a new audience. Number 2 is like, how are you nurturing your audience to generate interest in your service? And that's normally with your content and your stories and all these kind of things. And then the final one is like, what are you doing to assist people in your audience who are considering working with you? So, how are you actually getting them over the line? And I think once you just break it down and just write down on a simple pen and paper, what are you doing? What are the answers to those questions that you're doing? And then once you've got that, you can forget about everything else. Like it is the basic way to do it. There are so many other activities, of course, you can do. But if you're struggling with time, then just focus on those 3 and don't let anything else come in, because you are doing things to actively push people who've just found you all the way down to converting to clients.
Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure. Yeah, I love everything you just said. It's like, I know there's so many things that can be said about social media, so many different strategies that we can employ and all that stuff. And there was this, I forget. I mean, I've heard this from so many different kind of like bigger people, bigger entrepreneurs, influencers, stuff like that, where they're like, well, I spend 6 hours a day, engaging on the platform. Well, I respond to every single DM that I get and yada, yada. And it's like, okay, well, you're not everyone. Like, that's your job. And like social media for small business owners is like just a part of the giant picture, right? And stuff like that. And so it's not realistic. Sure. And like, is that the best way to see fast growth? Yes, for sure. But, like it's not doable. And so exactly, it's like figuring out what is doable for you. And I love what you keep bringing it back to, like, what is my return on investment? Whether that investment is money, time, just like energy, stress levels, stuff like that. Because I totally agree. And I love that you brought up hashtags, because that's, again, one of those things that a lot of people are concerned about. I don't know if you get this, but a lot of people come to me, like most of my students, clients, what are the right hashtags? Like, what should I do about hashtags? Hashtags. And I'm just like, hashtags are a great tool for increasing your visibility on pretty much Instagram alone at this point, which is who I normally work with, but like, it is a good tool for increasing your visibility, but also like, it's one of those things where hashtag strategies are changing all the time. And is it going to give you a great return on investment, right? I would rather you spend 5 minutes finding 3 sets of hashtags to use for the entire month and just keep using those hashtags. And then instead take the other 45 minutes you would have spent every week, to invest in your content and make it more engaging, to reach out to people in the DMs and like just be direct. Cause I always think hashtags are one of those like indirect ways to reach more people, right? You kind of slap them on your post goes out and you're like, okay, I hope this comes in front of the right eyes. But I would rather, if you're looking for an outreach strategy, go find your people, interact with them, start to build a relationship, be more proactive with that visibility stuff. It's exactly like you're purposefully putting yourself on this podcast, and the same thing can be done with like your social media strategy. Do you feel that way too?
Oh, 1000%. I'm also the same with when you're talking. I'm like, yes.
I know, we was so aligned, girl.
But this is what I love about working one-to-one with clients, because like when you're looking at people's different strengths and what they find enjoyable, that's when you're able to see what is the best use of your time for the goals that you want to achieve. Now, I know that like building relationships works for me. People think I'm nice. I am nice. So in that respect, me being on podcasts or going on Clubhouse rooms actually works far better than me than perhaps sending loads of, comments on or DMs to people, because it doesn't come across the same for me. This is my strength. And me spending half an hour in a Clubhouse room or an hour on a podcast gives me far more return than if I were to spend 3 hours engaging. And when you have to almost get really strategic and methodical about it and go, look, how much time is actually that going to do so that you can actually create more time for you. And something else you said as well, I totally get it. Social media is like, I don't know if you find this on your feed, but you're scrolling through Instagram and all I hear is like, do this, don't do this, do this, do. And I'm just like, whoa, I'm overloaded. And what I've seen then is clients come to me the same as you. And they're like, oh, I've heard about this. I should do this, or I should do this. And I'm like, forget about it. Literally, these are such small things that you like exactly the hashtags, or, someone said to me about LinkedIn, oh, I've heard that if I actually put the link in the comments, that'll boost the reach. And I was like, that is such a small, tiny, inconsequential thing. You should just be focusing on your content. And when you do that and you let go of all the noise and all the tips and all the hacks and all the advice, and you just focus on certain activities, honestly, the amount of brain space you get and the lack of like overwhelm, it just makes everything so much better.
Yes. So much noise. And it's easy to get distracted by like shiny objects or just confused, overwhelmed so easily when like people are just shouting about this and that and all that stuff. And it's like, yeah, most of these strategies probably have legs, but let's find what you need to do. Like, what's your first step? Then we can start building upon it as it gets easier. If you find a little more time and energy in your day, all those things. And so exactly, that's part of my job is just cutting back the noise for my clients and saying, okay, wait, let's I know that this is fun. Like, let's talk about that next month. Let's reel it in right now.
And that helps them mentally, because they're just like, oh my God, thank you. Like, I don't want to be overloaded with something else again. And I find that a lot of conversations I'm having with people, they're talking about all these, should I do this? Should I do this? I've heard this. And there is no one size fits all strategy when we all have different priorities. Like, that's just not something we can give. So I actually spoke about this in my stories the other day. I was not sick of it, because anyone's welcome to message me. I'm a nice person, I promise. But it was the same old thing, I should do this, I should do this. And I was like, your priorities, your goals, your resources, your time, your energy is so unique to you and your business. Hearing all these do this, do that, you have to think, is that actually right for me? Because all this information, I feel like Instagram in particular, it's quite popular now to come out with a bold statement of do this just to position yourself as an authority. But actually, these bold statements can be so misleading, especially to a small business owner who perhaps, social media isn't their thing. They're not that clued up on it. They're kind of maybe new to it, and they're hearing all these things. And I'm like, you have to take it with a pinch of salt. That will work for some people, but it won't work for everyone else. So just drown out the noise.
Well, and here's a funny thing, mindset shift that keeps coming up for me too, is exactly, it's what you say, what is the value? Think about the value of each of your marketing like strategies or, the things that you're doing in your marketing, right? Like, so for the podcast, for example, like I know my podcast is going to live on forever. Podcast listeners tend to go back and listen to old episodes. So I really try to be intentional with my podcast. I care a lot about the episodes. I want them to be edited well. I want the content to be great, that sort of thing. And I put a lot of time and energy, and I almost I'm trying to let go of perfectionism. And I think I'm actually better than like a lot of, full blown perfectionists, but I let my quote unquote perfectionism take over more so when it comes to my podcast episodes versus an Instagram post. Like Instagram is fleeting, and ultimately, like, do we want to be showing up? Yes, but it's the long game of like consistently showing up again and again. And individual posts aren't really that valuable. It's more about like just building relationships and like showing up again and again and slowly building that trust over time. Right. So like, I don't know, this thing came up for me where it's like, if you're struggling with like perfectionism and all that stuff, like there are certain times even when like you can let perfectionism kind of come in a little more, like when you're delivering something to a client or when you have this longer lasting content, definitely like make sure it's great. But like for an Instagram post, I don't want you spending more than an hour on one post, like an hour max, and even that, like we try to work through that with my clients at least.
That is so, so true. I completely agree with all that. Looking at, the value, the return on investment, what you enjoy, what you are good at, what you prefer to do, where like you say, the longevity of this compared to that, all these types of things you really need to take into consideration when you're doing it. And it's really interesting as well when you're actually diving in and you're getting clients to look at their strengths, and that's just boosting their confidence in return. And they know, okay, this is what I'm good at. This is what I enjoy. So I'm going to like lean into that a bit more and do more of that. And it's really wonderful to see people actually enjoy social media, even though I'm telling them to be on it less. I want them to enjoy it,
Oh my gosh. Our messaging is so low. I feel like those exact words have come out of my mouth before. I'm like, yes. Yeah, girl, you and I are so aligned in our messaging and our business and all those things. I'm so, so excited to have you on the show, geek out about all this stuff with you. Cause I feel like whenever two social media managers get together, they're like, oh, yeah, someone who gets it,
Yeah. It's so true.
Oh man, lady, I've so enjoyed chatting with you. Can you please share where everyone can connect with you, find out more about you? Cause I know they'll want to do that.
Yeah. So my main place I'm hanging out on is Instagram. So you can find me at Cassie Widders, and my website is cassiewidders.co.uk.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us. I can't wait to share
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
How wonderful was Cassie, you guys? I told you that we geeked out about all the things Asia, social media, our messaging. We are so, so aligned. I would love for you to go ahead and give Cassie a follow on Instagram. And hey, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to share it to your Instagram stories and tag both of us. I'm at Feel Good Social. Cassie is at Cassie M. Widders. We would absolutely love to see it and reshare it and spread some love right back to you, my Feel Good listener. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will catch you next time I catch you. Thanks so much for listening, my friend. For show notes and a whole lot of other awesome freebies, visit feelgoodsocial.com. Simply go to feelgoodsocial.com for all the goods.